Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender in Europe, game designed by Salvatore Vasta, published by GMT Games. This is the East First series of videos. We are getting ready to go into, where are we? We're going into October, and at the end of last turn we had rolled and the Germans had gotten another fair turn in the mild zone. Just a quick recap. Germany finally did break through France, and at the end of last turn I had to make a strategic decision. I could have tried to hold along the Somme and part of the Loire, but I could not figure out a way to get units to cover the Aller down to where the Germans had swept across here to where they're sitting on the Rhone. And so I decided that discretion was the better part of valor, defend the Rhone, try and slow him down from taking Cherbourg, and try to hang on to Bordeaux and Toulouse. Whether that works or not, we will see. And here we go. What are we doing here? There we go. So there's no declarations of war. He took off factories for having lost for my bombed markers, which you'll see in a minute that I correct him on that, and he goes back up to 28, which is where he should be. So we're in the strategic warfare phase. I'm a +4 because I do have 2 bombed markers up here in Germany. He's unfortunately having to use his airplanes to completely, get the French, and so I'm able to run Bomber Command. Even though it's at 4 sorties, I can run over and grab 2 cities almost every turn. So he rolled a 3. I rolled a 1, but because I'm +4, I'm just enough to chip a factory off of the Germans. And that's when I realized that he had miscounted. He should have been 13 plus 1 for the extra factories is 14 to start with, so he should have had 28. Now next turn he'll have he'll be down to 26. So, and take my bombed markers out of Germany. Strategic movement, and this is where we had a discussion here, and I kind of put some control markers down so he would know. And he brought the Yugoslav from somewhere over here. I'm not sure exactly where he picked it up from. Yeah, the one outside of Zagreb. And puts it in that mountain hex for Vichy, because if he hadn't, I would have been able to rail like the 3rd guards up here to kind of screen him and maybe hang on to those cities until I can get these guys flipped face up. And we had to find the strategic move marker because it was over in the east. And then in the west, I thought really hard about, should I move like up to here? I could move, a unit back there, or I could even put like the Alpine unit, which is flipped and possibly could be eliminated. And in the end, I said nah, and the Soviets didn't have one. So we go into Axis operations. We go. He just gets rid of the French air because it can reach Toulouse, and he doesn't want to have to deal with it. We're in poor weather, so there's no die rolls there. He's at a net -4. I'm at a net -6. So best he can get's 2, which is 1. We end up with diamonds, so it's just count them up. And now he started with. He started with the 15th attacking. It's here, and he's attacking my low supply guy. So I'm down to a -1. Oh, and we didn't give him his stuff. So we went into combat commitment. Neither one of us bothered because he had 2 attacks and an armored unit if it fails. He rolled a 4. He should have been a 4 + 3 because we forgot to set the attack die roll modifier. So then I did that after the fact. and so he's actually a 7. And then I rolled a 2 minus 1, which is a DD result, so I was National Will for that. He gets that guy sort of free. He has 5 movement points, and we talked about where he could move to from there or there, and he went, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sort of like sealing the French away from the British. He was worried about me being able to break through with the 1st Canadians, and he does know that the Western Desert Force is still there. So he's worried about that. And then he goes with this infantry unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I said, if you go 5, 6, you can't attack the cities. It goes 5, 6, 7, 8. It was like I finally found my strategic move marker when he was attacking that city. I had moved it there for the last turn. I think we're going to be in combat commitment here. He starts off at +1 to... So he moved up an airplane and took a sortie. I threw my tanks. He moved an airplane up. So one of the things he has to do is move airplanes up to take me down for sorties. I ended up at 3. He ended up at 3. And then he also threw his tanks marker. So he's +5 to +3. Just trying to get a retreat. That's all he needs. He rolled an 8, and I rolled a 4 + 3 is a 7, so I held the city. He moves up this airplane. Takes this armored unit. Started taking this armored unit to go over here, and I said, well, you'll be at 9 movement points there, but if you put him back and move this one instead, he gets there, spends his last 4 to attack Bordeaux. You only get 1 attack on Bordeaux either way, but if he goes this way, this guy can then go there. I said, if you push me out of Bordeaux, then this guy could be isolated or at least have no retreat routes. And he's like, yeah, you're right, that's probably a pretty good idea. So he went ahead and did that. Used his airplane. He called it an assault. We didn't bother with an assault marker because we knew. So he could throw in his heavy artillery. I had to throw in my last tanks. I have to try and hold that city. So he ends up with +2 for German, +2 for armor, +2 for an airplane, +2 for the heavy artillery, -2. 1 for the river, 1 for the city. I started off at -1 and got +2 because I'm a flipped unit. +1 for French, -2 for flipped, +2 for tanks. So I'm back to a +1. +6 to +1. I'm like, this is not good. He only rolled an 8. I'm like, oh, good. I'm going to be able to retreat. And I rolled a 2. A 2 + 1 is a 3, and an 8 to a 3. Double check the combat results table. Sure enough, it's a DD. So not only did he take the city, but he also got rid of the unit. So he got 3 plus the 1 he killed up here. He's already taken me down 4 will points. I started at 11. Now I'm down to 7. That's all I have left. So things are not going my way. And I believe he goes ahead and starts with this armored unit in the north just to see how bad things might be. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, you can go there, not let me retreat to Cherbourg. Or he says, yeah, but here I have a coherent line of zones of control, so that you can't just run through and grab a city or something. You have to use your surprise attack marker. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We should lower his points down. I'm a 3, he's a 6, because he uses an airplane. And then he rolled a 2 plus 6, which was an 8, and then I rolled a 7. I'm like, yay! More. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He only has 1 more attack here. There we are. So he is. That's a mistake. He was 4, 5, 6. Oh dear. I think yes. We added it in. We didn't put it in the attack die roll modifier again. So, he took it. He advanced. He's like, okay, I basically have contained the West. West has to fight hard to push out through northern France. I could use my surprise attack marker and invade someplace like Le Havre or Calais. I thought about it and I was like, does that really get me anywhere? Now he takes this armored unit and goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he's 5, 6 to attack the third guards. He rolls a 10 to my 7, which is enough to force me to retreat. And then he's going to be plus 6 to 0 for the next attack. He gets a 9, which guarantees that I will die because at 0, a 9, any die roll you make is at least a retreat. And so that one goes away, and I lose another willpower. So now I'm down to 4. And he was talking about what he was going to do with his last panzer. And I was like, we could run over and take Toulouse. And he's like, no, I want to break the Rhone. And I was like, okay. So we moved that tank up there. And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 go across the river. He's at plus 3 total. We're in poor weather down there. And then -1 for the river. He should have actually been -2 because it was poor weather. Oh well. He still would have gotten a 7 to a 1. Whether it's an 8 to a 1 or a 7 to a 1 doesn't really matter. It's a DD, so he's eliminated. And he takes the hex. And then I was like, you're out of supply there. How are you going to do that? He's like, well, I want the Africa army here. So he came up with this. The Africa army goes there. This garrison unit goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can get to there. And then he'll go up here and grab the guy in Rotterdam. And if you count down the rail line, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into Dijon. And so he's done. He has 14 left. This is a strategic number because he does have an armored unit that he can build. So he's almost got me. I'm down to 4. So now we're going to Western Ops. Did I not change the phase again? So I decided I needed to try and take back a city to make it harder for him. So I moved over here and I figured I'm 0 to 0 with 2 attacks. Hopefully I can get a retreat. So, and I rolled a 3, which was horrible. And he rolled a 6. And if you look, 3 to a 6 is an AS. So, oops. Then I moved. Oh, I think I'm down here now. So I took off a bunch of points to move this guy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the hex, for the unit, and then 8 to the clear terrain. And then basically assaulted with these 3 units down here. So I was 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, so I was +3 to +3, I believe. +3 to +3. I rolled a 1 + 3 as a 4. With his +3, I cannot retreat him. So did not push him back across the Rhone. If I'd pushed him back across the Rhone, I might have used the surprise attack marker to grab, say, Le Havre, and then had the Canadian and the French tanks army up here try to push back the Panzer with some support, to try and do something. But when that failed and the Dijon gambit failed, I really got to the point where I was like, I don't think this is worth pursuing with the British. So I said, never mind, we're going to leave. I activated the Western Desert Force, took the fleet out with me, and he goes, hold on. He's got his surprise attack marker. He threw out his surface action marker here. He threw it out in the North Sea for some reason, but so he's attacking. He is +1, and I am +2 for British, but -1 because of my sortie, so it's +1 to +1. He only rolled a 4. I rolled a 4, 3 + 1 and 3 + 1, 4 to 4. So his will come back in 2 turns. I take a sortie, and then I finish on my merry way. So now I'm down to here. I got to sea zone 19, 22, 24, 5. That was 9 to get to there. I landed in Alexandria and then brought the fleet back out for its 10th movement point so I could land it in Port Said. And next I take the 1st RAF along with the first convoy, and it's exactly 10 movement points to get to Alexandria. And you might say, why aren't you fighting for tooth and nail in France? With only 2 cities that he needs to take, he's most likely going to get Toulouse, because he's got his heavy artillery back for next turn. So he's going to take Toulouse, and all he has to do is push that one French army out of the way, and he can just run in and grab Cherbourg. And he also still has a desperate attack to push me out of Marseille. So, in the long run, I'm more worried about him catching the French next turn, putting a pro marker in Italy, and then pulling. He'll have a 2 in 7 chance, I think, in the Diplomacy Cup to pull a pro marker. And if he does that, then Italy activates, and all I would have down here is garrisons with no air support, no mobile unit, and he could, quite possibly be threatening Egypt, and then I would have to move through his fleets. Now I'm just sitting here, waiting for him. I did the same thing with the BEF because I saw no good place to use it, and it is sitting engaged to keep them from just running up and start capturing North Africa. So it's the long game here. We do have an extra year worth of war. So at this point, if I'd had some success early on here with the French, like push them across the Rhone, take Dijon, then maybe I go ahead and do this attack up here instead of preparing for Italian entry, because I have a good chance of hanging on if I can push this Panzer away and have, the Western Desert Force and the British kind of holding the line here and protecting the French units, then maybe I can, pull it off. But not to be. Then I'm doing my supply. Move this guy. Move the home fleet and the convoy into Brest because I'm going to have to supply myself, and then I think that's all I'm doing here. Oh, I run my 2 bomber markers, and I realized that I didn't have a fighter that was actually covering the 1st Canadian, so I had to move fighter command down to like Southampton. Checking some things out, and I think now I'm just running up sorties, and I left the guy in Cairo in low supply because I'm trying to get my convoys down to low numbers when the Italian Navy comes in. I'm convinced he's going to pull those markers. We go into the Soviets. I do one little shenanigan move here. I move an infantry that was in 3054 out. I want to put the tank over there, and then I just move an infantry in here. I'm thinking of possibly making one of these infantry down here a guards unit, so I can get a really good attack on this Romanian and maybe get rid of him. and then kind of roll along and maybe get this Romanian pushed back so that I'm getting to the point where the Nor will not have a retreat route. And then maybe in 2 turns I can actually take Kharkov, because all I'm facing here is basically miners with a couple of German backers. And miners the Russians can tend to push away in poor weather. With my luck, I will not come in till like April or something. So, and and then I played games. I started thinking about the Italian invasion, and I had this garrison unit way over here. Let's go back. He was over here, and I started counting. I went, oh, garbage. Merch is open. If he puts somebody in Rhodes, he could invade to there, threatening to just run across Turkey, so I'd have to pull people back, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So this Turkish garrison unit moves to there, because I always give the Turks an extra point. And then I started thinking about it again. I said, Smyrna is a tough port, so we're going to move a real unit in there and just leave the garrison behind. And hopefully this will hold. And then we were done. So we go to no supply phase. Nobody does anything there. Replacements for the Axis. We go over into the east, and we know what he's going to do. Many airplanes. It saves his last 2. The west. Oh, that was the French taking back. They flipped their unit that was in Marseille, so they have somebody strong there. And then they brought down their airplanes. Then I go over here. I forgot to put up the convoy up to 4 sorties to supply the Canadian. So I brought down the bomber and that convoy. That was 7. I had 22. So now I have 15, which means I have 5 3s left. So I go down here, do the Americans along the way because they're free. Then I go over here into the Middle East, and I take 1 convoy is 3, 6, 9, 12. Bring the airplane down. And then I had 3 left, and so I went back up and just got fighter command in a little better shape, in case he decides to try and push the British out of Nens, which is a possibility. In poor weather, they might be able to pull it off, especially since they have their heavy artillery. And went to the replacement phase for the Soviets, upgrade. Axis have mobilization. They go ahead and build their armored unit up here in Königsberg. They're like, it's not going to help me in the west. The Russians might be coming in, so I want to have, another unit to get over here in the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can actually get all the way to 2043. So, he can come a long way to help back the German line against Russian hordes. And the west, I did have something to build with the west. The American task force comes in, yay. The Soviets thought about building their convoy and said, no, we'll wait till November. And then there's no diplomacy. This was a mistake on my part again. I made this mistake last turn. There is a no event in here, and I keep forgetting to grab it and throw it in the cup. So, dumb me. He's going to have a 2 and 7 instead of a 2 and 8 when he takes out France. So, not paying attention. And then we're at end of turn phase, which is just us, bringing back all sorts of stuff off the card here. I get my French tanks. I get my naval evacuation. The British get stronger with their Lend-Lease. So now they will have 8 plus 5, 13. So they'll have 26 next turn, which is the same as the Germans. Then I get an American convoy and an American airplane. Bring the French stuff down that I can rebuild. I get a shock army. And the Russians get their first heavy artillery. And I moved the turn marker up, and then he started to take the wrong guys. And then he got his tanks and he has a submarines now, so he can try and stop because I don't have anything to play with the British. So he can try and get that factory back next turn. And we're in November, and I believe, yeah, current weather. So as is our wont, we always roll the weather before we end the night so that we can plan for the next turn. So this is the weather die roll. And it's a 3-3-5. Now you have to go and look. Okay, the cold zone is in poor, so use the poor line here on the November turn. And a 3 remains poor. In the mild zone, he rolled a 3, and he had fair before. So you go to the November fair line, and he's a poor as also. And then in the warm zone, when you look, he was in poor. So you go to the November poor line, and he got a 5. So it's not severe down there; it's just poor. So, if he had a fair in October down there, it would be severe this turn. So, kind of a nice little twist to the table. You have to kind of study it a little bit to see how much, what your chances are to getting fair weather on the next turn when you have the pairs of March, April, May, June, and October, November. The original rules were like you couldn't have the same weather as you had the last turn in it, but those got to be very predictable. Like in Russia, it's like if you had poor in one, you got severe in the other, and vice versa. It was a little too deterministic, and the Germans could actually plan for their defenses at the end of the war, assuming, like, if you got fair in May, you couldn't get fair in June. Now you can't. It's just less chance. You only get 1 and 3 instead of 1 and 4. If you get the 1 and 2 in, or 2 and 6 in the May turn. So it is possible to get 7 or 5, 6. Technically, you can get 7 turns in the warm zone and 6 turns in the cold zone, but it's not a real high probability. But it is a fair probability that you should get 4. And in the case of the mild zone, you will see more 5s than you will 4s as far as fair weather turns go. So that's the end of this turn. The Germans have the French on the ropes. 2 more cities and they're gone. He was also talking about, well, you left me an infantry unit out here that I can now isolate and just kill it that way. And I was like, yeah, but it's going to be poor weather. You're going to need to get a DD or attack him twice. And if you don't get your die rolls, then, you want to probably use your assets to push this French unit out because, you got multiple ways of doing this. The way that I saw was this armored unit can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He attacks there. This infantry unit just stays there. He can bring the Yugoslav down here because he had next turn because he won't be under strategic movement. If he does this, he has ground support markers, so that would be 3. Throws his tanks marker 4, 5, 6, 7. Throw an airplane 8 -2 because the city in poor weather, so he'd be +6, and I would be 1 plus a tank, so +6 to +2. There's a pretty good chance you get a retreat, which is all he needs. He gets a retreat, pushes me out. This airplane flies away somewhere, don't know. Now he has all these other assets out here. 3 armored units and an infantry. So he can actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he technically could do this. Boom, 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 boom. And he would have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, another airplane, 8. He could throw his heavy artillery, 9, 10. -1, he'd be +9 to my +3. 6-point differential, odds are he makes him retreat. And then he just takes this infantry unit and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. France falls. So, yeah, not looking good for the Germans. And by the same token, if somehow I hold it down here, and I don't see how I can hold it at the level that he can attack me. So Toulouse, Cherbourg fall. The French fall off the board. He doesn't have to spend resources back here to take out the French. He can actually start trying to run some of his German infantry east. He's got most of his armor sitting on rail lines that they can just move forward. This garrison unit moves down to take Marseille, so I don't have a free port. And then I'm sitting at Brest, and he's got 3 armored units to, just start pounding on Nantes, push me out of there, and then ultimately he'll take Brest sometime during the winter of 43, I believe. It really matters that when he takes France, where does he put the pro marker? If he throws it in Spain, then I have to go garrison Gibraltar. If he throws it in Italy, then I don't have to garrison Gibraltar right away, and I can, continue on with my build-up here, getting everything down to zeros as much as I can. So it's really going to matter what he does with that pro marker. And I believe, did I do it again? And one more time, I did not use my upgrade marker. I have really got to remember to do this. The Russians now have some more upgrades coming that they can use. I have another shock army to build for the poor weather. And then I can't make up my mind with the Russians where to put the convoy. Normally when I'm collapsed, I put the convoy up in Leningrad to make them have to garrison Helsinki and Tallinn and stuff like that. But since Finland didn't come into war this game, I'm wondering if I don't put it down here in Novorossiysk or Batum, and threaten invasions of like Constanta. He's already garrisoning Varna. The other thing might be to, take a guards unit with a tank and bring an airplane down here and have the Turks with their ground support. That'd be 2. You'd have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an airplane would be 8, 9, -2. So you'd be like a +7 to a +2 or 4, attacking into Istanbul and possibly, breaching the isthmus here and starting to push the Germans back here, make them fight on this front as well as up here in Russia. But the Russians have to roll a 1, 2, or 3 at the end of November turn for that to happen. So it's probably not going to happen for a while as far as those kinds of decisions. I probably will put the convoy out next turn. I just have to figure out where I want to put it. Okay, well, that, kids, is the October 1942 turn. I'm Dren608. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Hit that like button so the algorithms for YouTube keep us up for everybody else to find. And until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.